evening is organized to engage in interreligious dialogue. And to live in this engagement, we have invited, also thanks to Vincent, two people who represent various traditions. So next to me, you can find Brother Theo. He presents the Roman Catholic Franciscan movement. At least his voice is here this evening. And he's here also, probably present as well. Yes. And the other one is Swami Padmanabha, and he's the founder of the Tadatmya learning community, and he's a representative of the broader Hindu Gaudiya Vaishnavism tradition. My name is Theo van Adrichem. I'm also there. I'm not going to talk about myself, but if you are interested in who I am, you can just look on the internet. Well, I am very long studying Hinduism and Buddhism, and I started actually 20 years ago when I was in university by reading this book, Baby Krishna, Infant Christ. And I was very inspired by the idea that God has also the form of it comes to us in the form as a child. And I was attracted to the playfulness of God. So that was one of the things that really appealed to me at the time. And still it does, because I'm often visiting India. Well, that's enough about me for now. You can find and see the program here. Yeah, we have a break. It's very... I won't stop you if you talk for like 3 minutes, because we have time, so don't take it too serious. But at least I think it's good to have a break, because it's very hot also, so that we can drink something and to talk with each other as well. So you see there's a break at 8:30. But now first, I was told that Brother Fair will open this evening in a more devotional way than I do.
Oh.
Yes, by sharing with us a mantra. Do you need the microphone?
Welcome to all of you, and what can we do better to unify a bit with each other than sing? And sometimes St. Augustine has said to sing is to pray twice. And I have a song, maybe some of you will know it, but it's in a language that for most of us is very new, because it's the very old language of Sanskrit. And you have already the music, the words. It's Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. That means, may all people be happy. And what would be a better wish for the world that all people could be happy? So I will sing it, I will accompany it also, and we can sing it repeatedly, because then it gets a bit more deep into our hearts and consciousness. Samasta Soki Samasta Soki Samasta Soki Loka Samasta Sokhino Bhavato. Loka Samasta Sokhino Bhavato. Loka Samasta Sokhino Bhavato. Loka Samasta Sokhino Bhavato. Loka Samasta Sokhino Bhavato.
Loka samasta samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta samasta sukhino bhavantu.
Thank you.
So yes, I'm sitting between Theo and Swami. I still difficulties you pronounce Swami. Okay, to pronounce your name properly, but I will try. So I will briefly introduce you to the audience, and then I'll ask you to respond to a question. But first, let me introduce you a bit more. So, Theo van Adrichem was born in Rijswijk in 1954. Yes. Yeah, and at the age of 26 or 27 maybe, he became a friar in the Franciscan movement. And since 2 years, he's living here in the Stadsklooster in Zertogenbosch. And 7 years ago, he became appointed as a provincial minister of the Franciscans in the Low Countries. And you are responsible for the monastic church. So we are very glad that you are here this evening and to share your insights with us about the relevance of religious traditions to certain contemporary issues in our society. So on the other side, Swami Padmanabha, he's a monk, theologian, a scholar in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, which is a Hindu branch. And in what is very, I think, something that's very relevant, what I read about you, is that you published a book in 2023 about radical personalism. I'm very interested to learn more about it. And well, he's placing relationships at the heart of devotion. And he's also reflecting on how the Hindu spiritual tradition can deal with societal issues. And he founded the Tadatmya learning community, and that community is devoted to bringing people together around this idea of radical personalism. So what I would like to do is that you also introduce, I will start now on this side. I would like to ask you to introduce the tradition or the movement that you represent, and mentioning one specific outstanding characteristic of that tradition that is relevant to contemporary Western society. So it's very specific that you find very useful insight from your the spiritual tradition that you represent. So may I give you the floor?
Thank you. Welcome to you all. Thanks so much for receiving us today. It's my honor and good fortune to be sharing with all of you, many dear brothers and sisters in the path. So regarding an introduction to my tradition called Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, it's a particular branch of what sometimes is known as Hinduism, which is a very tricky term because actually it doesn't point to anything in particular. It will be like calling Christianity, Judaism, and Islam Abrahamism. No, so it's not very specific. So Gaudiya Vaishnavism refers to, it's a devotional tradition, monotheistic tradition, where we worship God, the divine, the sweet absolute, as I like to call it, through bhakti, which is a Sanskrit word for devotion, loving devotion, that we try to embody in every single act, in our relationships, in our connection with everything. Big part of our tradition, as Brother Ferdinand started with us, is singing and chanting and celebrating, reciting ancient hymns, So we'll continue saying a little bit more later, but regarding the question by Deborah about one specific point or theme or aspect of our tradition that I find relevant for the modern world, the world we're living, will be the tradition's emphasis on relationality, on how everything is interconnected, how everything is interrelated, how we are not truly separate from one another. Our tradition is a non-dual tradition, but by non-dual, we don't mean that we do not exist as individuals, but we are not entirely separate. There's one beautiful line from one Upanishad, Maha-Upanishad, say, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which means there's only one family. So the moment we start to think in terms of two families, we start to fracture, to divide reality. So Bhakti tradition, my tradition in particular, emphasizes union. Yoga is a Sanskrit term for union, the union, the connectivity of everything. And therefore, if we are all truly inseparable, somehow all realities engage in some type of conversation with everything. We're all having a connection and dialogue with everything, which for me, this meeting is a beautiful example of how we should remain in dialogue with everyone and everything, not only us humans, but creation, nature, the world, the divine. So I like to say that so far. Maybe later we can continue, but I think that's a very important aspect of my tradition, the emphasis on interconnectedness, interrelationality, and how that plays out in how we live our life and relate to each other through bhakti or love. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Well, I have a follow-up question for you because you pronounce it so very beautiful. This concept of being one family. Can you pronounce it again for me? Because I was practicing and I couldn't pronounce it. So because, and I will explain why I want to use it later on this evening.
Let's make Deborah happy.
Yes.
The Sanskrit, this line says Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. There's a few aspired letters with the H, so Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Yeah. The whole world is one family. The Maha-Upanishad.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I tried it a couple of times, but
now we all want to know why you wanted me.
I wanted I want to listen to the word because I came across this idea when I was investigating in India kind of ecological movements, and this is very relevant for the perspective of connectedness, interconnection. Then there were also this kind of ideas, also related to Laudato Si. The world is one family from Hinduism, and the world is our common home. So there was an interesting perspective that I came across. I haven't written about it, but maybe after this evening I will. So thank you so much. Well, I have the same question, Theo, for you. Well, if you want to introduce yourself a bit further and the Franciscan movement and the Roman Catholic tradition, I hope you can do that. And also, if there's one thing that's relevant from the Franciscan movement to contemporary society, please share it with us.
Okay, thank you. I have some aspects of the meaning to introduce. I don't know if everybody knows the Franciscan tradition, some well, others maybe no. So, but some basic things I want to see, to tell. At the end of his life, Francis of Assisi, he made the Canticle of Creatures, and that is a song. And I say it's something in the fruit of his life journey, apotheosis, culmination. It is not euphoric. You can say it is Canticle of Creatures. Because he composed the song when he was seriously ill and weakened. But still, at that moment, he was singing the song of creatures. Sun, moon, stars, wind, water, fire, and earth, praise the Lord. and they are all called brother and sister, brother sun, sister moon, and so on. God only in the final verses of that canticle, man comes into view. And then special persons. So people who know how to forgive and how to reconcile, especially these persons come in the canticle. And when they do this, they praise the Lord. So it is also for restoration and that in forgiving and reconciliation, we praise the Lord. And the concluding sentence of this canticle preaches are, let us thank God and serve him in great humility. All preachers, inclusive human beings, are called to thank and serve the Lord in great humility. Francis of Assisi was fascinated that the most high, the most almighty good Lord descended into our human life in Jesus. In Jesus, God shared our poverty, our humility. Humility, that means, it comes from humus, and that means earthy. We are earthy all. And there is this fascination of Francis, who was fascinated by Jesus coming to us, was very well present in this picture. So you see Jesus, the cross, and he was so touched that when Francis looks at the crucified Christ, he knows himself infinitely loved by God, who sacrificed himself completely. And Francis can do nothing else but pass on this love that he received to others. So I think that is the deep source of his whole life. In the rule of the friars minor, that's another aspect because we are now for interreligious dialogue. Inside the rule of the friars minor, there is some article about how to live in the middle of people who have another belief or even don't believe. And then in the rule it is said the friars can live there spiritually among them in two different ways. The first way, do not engage in conflict of or verbal disputes. Please don't that, not disputes, not disputing, but be submissive to every human creature. That is very special. When you say you have to be submissive, so that we, from other, not we are here and we have the right word. No, be submissive to every creature where you live. That's the first way of spiritually live in the middle of people. For the sake of God, to be submissive, that is for the sake of God. So it is inspired by that you say we are all we live with God, but so for the sake of God we have to be submissive. Yeah. And tell or profess that you are Christian. So you don't have to say, yeah, you can make known that you are Christian, but only say that. The second way is that whenever you see that it pleases the Lord, you can proclaim the word of God, but only then when it is you see that pleases God. Otherwise, live submissive to the people. So I think that is interesting that already at that time he had this attitude. And so we are here amidst one another. Yes.
Thank you. I would like to ask you if there are any questions already for clarification. because I can imagine that some of you are more familiar with the Franciscan movement, and some others are more familiar with the Gaudiya Vaishnavism. So are there any questions already? Yeah.
You spoke about being spoke about being submissive. Wouldn't it be better to say modest? Because to be submissive, that's too creepy. That is too, because we are divine creatures, so we have the right to stand and to be here. So modest, I think that's enough.
Not too humble. Yeah. Would you like to respond to that?
In some way, because what I also said about humility, that I think that is more in some way. Sometimes, and also in religious tradition, humility, they said you have to live that way, and that's not. I think always humus also is standing on the ground, and is not to jump higher than you are, but even not to go under the ground. So that. Yeah. But I think here in this region, he said it is that you are in a good, humble way living amidst of the others. Yeah.
Can I show one?
Yes, sure. Yeah.
Just your comment inspires something in connection to our tradition, which one of our main representatives, Sri Chaitanya, his main teaching, starts saying Trinada Pisunichena, which means be more humble than a blade of grass. And again, one could read that line and may feel like I have to allow myself to go down and to be stepped on by other people. But the idea in that example, in that symbol, is the blade of grass is bending without breaking. So be humble in a way that doesn't break you, right? So like a similar idea when we speak about humility, submission, surrender. I know sometimes these words may be a little weaponized in some religious circles, and we may be a little bit defensive to that, but all of them are beautiful words and realities that have to be embraced in an empowering way, right? So just that came to show.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Already? I actually have one based on what you were explaining. Maybe no, I will turn to you. If you listen to the story of Theo, would you use the concept avatar? He was talking about an incarnation. Jesus was an incarnation of God, the embodiment, and I was just wondering, do you use this idea of avatar, and would you consider Jesus to be an avatar or not? I often ask this to my students to reflect on in their exams, so maybe you can help me to formulate a proper answer to this.
For the question, and of course, in relation to what Brother Theo said, I mean, almost all the description also that he gave about the Franciscan order, I was thinking I could just copy paste that and also make it part of my tradition, because I mean, I agree 108% with everything he said. So that's beautiful in itself. And in connection to your particular question, Deborah, yes, we actually use the term avatar, which in Sanskrit is a word that means, sometimes it's translated as incarnation, but yeah, more accurately may refer like divine descent, which basically means, yeah, the divine descending among us now on earth. And of course, in our tradition, we are also speaking about humility. We try to humble ourselves by reminding us that we will say God is infinite. So, ekashampi pram bahuda vadanti. That's a Sanskrit line which says God is one, but it can appear, God can appear in infinite ways. We are dealing with the infinite here. So for us, we will say we are monotheistic, but we will qualify monotheism, calling it polymorphic monotheism. Sorry if I become too technical today. Polymorphic means many forms. So one God, one divine reality appearing in infinite expressions. And yeah, many of them we call them avatar or divine essence. Every time we are asked about Jesus, of course, we'll use that term. Yeah, avatar. So yeah, you are correct with your students. No problem. If that was the main concern, no problem.
Thank you. But then my follow-up question is, can you consider Saint Francis of Assisi also an avatar? So this question I've never asked, but well, maybe something to think about. Can you respond to it?
I mean, I can try.
Yeah.
We never had a final word about anything. We were talking about love and God. We can never put a final word to an end to the conversation. But I appreciate the question. We are getting more nuanced now.
Yeah.
And that's another interesting point because when we use the term avatar, still it's a very generic term. We have many different, so to say, categories of avatar, Shakti-avish avatar, and Bhakti-avish avatar, and Jnana-avish avatar, different forms. And though I've never heard anyone speaking of St. Francis as one type of avatar so far, I could dare to do so today for the first time myself, because there are many. My point is that in our tradition, we'll speak about great saints, great personalities, like who will say there are kind of like embodiments of divine love, embodiments of the power of love in a very extraordinary way. So they will be considered in our tradition different names of different great personalities as a certain type of avatar. So someone, whomever knows the life of Saint Francis even a little bit, they will be quickly realize, wow, here we have a walking embodiment of divine love and what was Jesus' heart all about. So I wouldn't have any problem in describing him as those types of avatar. In this case, more like a great devotee, a great lover of God. So yeah, there is place for Saint Francis in that list, and for any great lover of God, by the way. Again, we don't want also to be exclusivistic and say only Saint Francis and only this, as long as there is a genuine expression of divine love in a very, how to say, like overwhelming, beautiful way. Generally, we will use a technical term will be bhakti avesh avatar. Bhakti means devotion, and avesh means like someone who is like how to say, fully embedded in that. Avesh, like fully immersed in a particular type of divine energy. In this case, divine love. So.
Yes, thanks for this wonderful answer. Would you like to respond to it? How would you respond if you see among Shiva and Vishnu, so these deities also image of or Murti of Saint Francis?
Honestly, I must say that I'm not, you are more in the Christian tradition than for me in the Hinduism. So you talk about, I've heard about this in Hinduism things. But to be real, compare or that should be, I have to inform better. But I'm interested in how to know more also about the Hinduistic tradition.
It's a bit complicated, I think, but what you were also trying to explain is that there is a room or space in Hinduism to think about people from different traditions, to include them. So this happened to Jesus, for instance, considering him in some Hindu movements as avatar incarnation, also with Buddha, who was a historical person, Gautama Buddha. So yeah, I was just trying to think about would it also work for Saint Francis? And then well, we will leave it here, but there's a difference, I think, between being a saint, well, and the embodiment of a characteristic of a deity. But well, we have to think about it in more detail. But well, it was.
We'll make another lecture about
Yeah. Not a question for the students. But it's very complicated, I think.
And I appreciate Brother Theo saying, I don't want to reply to something without being properly informed.
Yes.
Something I really appreciate. That's very
Yeah,
important.
Swami appreciated that Theo well, said that he's not able to respond yet to the question because he needs some more background information. But that's well, that's something we can do afterwards after this meeting. Yeah. Are there any questions? I'm just asking every 5 or 6 minutes because I can imagine that it's sometimes a bit difficult to follow. Are there any questions from you, the audience, to participate? Yes. You may also ask the question in Dutch if you feel more comfortable with it.
Hello, I'm Marika. I think my question is related to the question that the man had earlier. Like, if humility is to bend like a blade of grass. Thank you. Is it in both your traditions? Because to bend like a blade of grass and be humble and not be proud, I think that's the practice of spirituality. Is that in both for your religions? Is that like a practice to relate to yourself, to the other person, to the world around you, and to God?
Yes, Theo, would you like to respond?
Yeah. So, what is in our tradition, you can say that because all what you have and be, it is a gift to you, so you are not the owner for that. And so that means that in society very often then you have to climb up and the other go down this way. I think that's way of life, or you might say it's promoted very strong. But I think finally the real way of relating to one another, that is more to lift up the other, and if that is the way we deal with one another, everybody is growing. And otherwise you can say you are putting down the others. But in practice that is not always very easy, but by the tradition it is to lift up the other and not yourself. That is
So complementary to what Brother Theo said, we will say in our tradition that humility, an important foundation for humility could be, of course, God is in the heart of every living entity. So that's worthy of being respected and honored. Even if the rest of the behavior of some person is not very respectable, you can always respect the fact that God is in that heart. Now, maybe some other things the person is doing, I shouldn't be like honoring that. I should maybe even take a distance from that, because humility can take different forms. It's not just only like this. Sometimes in order to respect the other person, I may need to take a distance. And that from that distance, I can see something good. And if I'm too close, I get too disturbed by the other person's problems or my own things as well. So for us, it's always take whatever stance is required so you can see something good in the other and start honoring that. And to begin with, at least as a foundation, is God is in every heart, and as Brother Theo was saying before, everyone is being loved by God, so unconditionally. So that's something that is very important to bear in mind. And I like always to remind myself, and probably you if you want, this word respect, which also sometimes can trigger in us something like respect, and you have to respect. And actually the word respect, spessare in Latin, which means spessare comes from spectacles, like from glasses. So respect means to look again or to look anew. So to be willing to rediscover what you are looking, not to take that for granted, and be open to see things from another perspective, from another angle. So that's real respect, not just like a formal shake of hands of namaste, but the willingness to not take for granted the other person, not judging, not putting the other person in a box forever, but always being curious about not only rediscovering the other person, but yourself as well, God as well, because we can take for granted God. Yeah, I know who God is and have my idea about the unlimited. So real respect means that childlike openness to wonder and rediscovery. So for me, and this idea of respect is tied to this idea of humility.
Thank you. Are there any more questions? Yeah, there is one. There's more.
We'll be doing lots of exercise today.
Yeah. Yes. Shall I translate it? Or do you want to? Yes, he speaks only Dutch, so I will try to translate it.
Ik ben christen.
Yes, your name is Martin, huh? Martin.
Ik ben van het christen geloof. Ik ben heel veel naar Hindoestaanse diensten.
So he's from a Christian background and he often visits Hindu meeting services. Yes.
Regionale periode, dat weer, koninkrijk naast is integreren in de education process.
So yeah, he wondered for like 30 years how you can implement reincarnation into the story of Jesus.
Ja, de mensen zien bijvoorbeeld in een job of een gezin, zien zij de volgende wereld die was.
Yeah. So you had had jij de trouw?
Ja, en
In het algemeen.
Iets moois mee.
Yeah. People imagine a beautiful heaven.
Ja, dan zien zij niet voor dit.
Ja.
En in evangelie Christus, wanneer Christus komt, dan staat in de schriften, dan zal hij de wereld heilig vieren. En er zal hier een liefdevolle wereld zijn.
So in the Christian Gospels, it is said that when Jesus comes, there will be a whole new world filled with love.
Ja. En dat zal ik al mijn principes wat je gaan ervaren. Maar het is maar die wereld, die liefdevolle wereld, die duizend jaar vrijheid in mijn leven, dat is die wereld.
Yes. En hoe koppel je dat aan reïncarnatie? Is reïncarnatie dan iets waar je...
Het is niet alleen in een droom, maar in een droom die een hele liefdevolle wereld is. Dat is van liefde, waar de mensen van te houden, maar mensen van kijken. alleen niet, dus daar geen pijn meer is. En in terms van vrijheid, wanneer je geest is, dat is niet meer. Die voorbeeld, die vrede van de wereld. Ja, die zijn al, als mensen in dromen en visioens doen.
Yeah, so, well, I think what you're telling is that there is this beautiful image in the Bible of the kingdom of Jesus of 1,000 years, which is full of peace and love, and the lion sleeping with the lamb. And that is something that people also dream about today. And I think you also are dreaming about this peaceful world, that jij ook droomt over een peaceful world. Yeah. And then I will ask you maybe a question. So, dus ik stel jou een vraag van, hoe verbind je dat aan reïncarnatie en het hindoeïsme wat je hebt?
Omdat ze die van de wereld, die mensen in de dromen, ook een zeker moment weggezet wordt. Dat echt gaat gebeuren.
Yeah, so it's also, so he's saying that the things that people sometimes experience in dreams, that these things also are coming true. And then maybe I will ask the question, because I'm thinking about reincarnation. Yeah, what I know from Hinduism is that this idea of this reincarnation is that you also somehow return and moksha and so on. I think you can answer this question better than me. But I try to think about, well, maybe I can ask you the question. Is something like dreaming of a beautiful future and a peaceful kingdom also something that's present within, well, Gaudiya Vaishnavism? Well, I think that the immanent and transcendent Goloka might be something to refer to this, like where also animals that are in our contemporary society, while eating each other, are peaceful living together. So maybe there's also an image that you can give to Martin or tell something about. Well, I was already explaining it a bit, but that's not my task. Like a peaceful scenery from Gaudiya Vaishnavism that also might be helpful in this society to focus on, maybe to live the dream of a beautiful heavenly scenery or something.
Okay. So, yes. Short the answer will be yes. There is such a description of an idyllic world of peace, harmony, of love and communion. But at the same time, we will also make an emphasis that it's important for us to try to live in that world as much as we can here and now. Because if not, the idea of that as a future place somewhere else could be an escape from trying to take the responsibility to bring as much peace, love, harmony as we can here. So for us reaching that realm, that world, however we may like to call it, heaven, spiritual realm, it's not so much something that we are suddenly taken there at some point, but that we start to arrive there in the present moment. And it's more a shift in consciousness. So we will say the spiritual world is a state of consciousness. So you can be in heaven here, basically, we will say, or the kingdom of God is a state of the heart, so to say. Because if not yet, this idea of a future, the dream of a future beautiful land, which I'm not against it, but I'm just saying, we may just keep dreaming and dreaming and dreaming, but what are we doing here to make the dream come true? Because generally, I remember this famous discourse given by Martin Luther King Jr. He started saying, I have a dream. But he didn't say, I have a dream and I will keep dreaming. And then it came to a how we can actualize the dream, how can we implement. I remember also, you may be familiar with this Christian theologian Walter Brueggemann, that he wrote this book called The Prophetic Imagination. And he speaks about the importance of first having the creativity and the imagination to dream about some alternative to the situation we may be living, there to imagine. But then you have to implement. But sometimes you need first to imagine. And he will say, we live now in a society that is very expert at implementing things, but not with much imagination. They basically cannot imagine anything new and alternative, but they're very expert at productivity and implementation. So we need to recover this prophetic imagination, he will say. So there's a place for imagination and dreaming, but in the service of making the dream come true. And not just staying with the dream or with the nice picture of heaven or whatever, but how can I incarnate or embody that? That's what we will say. I hope that helps. Yeah.
Would you like to respond? Something about the kingdom and the presence of the kingdom?
No, so association I have is that because it's another way of thing I'm thinking about. And in our reality, very often it's very hard, and then something evil is very present there. And then the way also of what Francis said in that situation, that we may not be prisoned by this present, so that is then not a beautiful future, but the bad reality. So when we see that people are doing evil or talking evil, we let us say something good and do something good. And I think that is also now for our reality. There is evil is so present in our world now in all ways, and then you can be hardened by that, and that also follow that, be captive by that. And then I think then he said, "Oh, please keep free from this. What is this way? This wave of evil." And then, because of the love who is within you, and then that you live the good and try to spread that. So that is not the kingdom image, but it is the other way around. In this, to live in this reality. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I would like to ask Vincent now, not yet, to do some musical.
Oh, I thought after the break.
Well, what you prefer?
Yeah, maybe that would do that.
After the break?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
Well.
You would like it now?
No, but I want to show the picture. Is it okay to show the picture?
Yes, sure.
Yeah. So this picture was selected by you to show after the break. However,
a mystery, and after the break,
Yeah.
Vincent will reveal what the picture is.
That's good.
However, I think what it shows is that God Krishna is sitting there with a flute, came to the earth. Also, part of the heaven where he lived came with him to the earth. And I like that perspective, that he not only came as a human, just so dropped down from the heaven or whatever, but he also took a whole environment with him. So it was filled with beauty, and when you go to the place in India, well, it's hard to imagine that it is heaven, because it's highly polluted. That's well, if you go to India, you know what I'm talking about. The smell, the plastics, it's too hot. There's a lot of pollution. But then what I am investigating are these counter movements, for instance, some communities that live together and really want to recreate places that are pleasant to God, so that you kind of start to create places on earth where Krishna will live here in the here and now. So this happens a lot in Europe. I don't know if you have ever been to Hungary, also in Belgium, in Rotterdam. There are certain communities run by Hindus who also want to create very environmental friendly environments where the species already lived as a kind of creating heaven on earth by imitating God Krishna and how he lived among in a community with cows, fighting water pollution, all those modern interpretations also, of course, but thinking about creating a place. And I think you also have it in the Franciscan movement, if you have gardens that maybe resembles something of what is described in the Bible about nature environments that pleases God. Maybe can you respond to it? Because you also have a beautiful garden here. Yeah, so what is the role of gardens? Do they also relate to this peaceful kingdom of God?
So it is to make in the gardens here, that is not only for the beauty, but also that is a kind of diversity, right? Also diversity of flowers and plants, but also that to make spaces also for other animals. They can have a space there and yeah, can live. So you and that is here in the Bosch, also in Megen, we have a garden. And so it's not only that it looks very well, but that it gives space for different that biodiversity is can be present there. Yeah, and we also had before, that was another in Stoutenburg, that was the environment convent, you can say. Also they had also the same idea, and also you say with respect also to the nature. Yeah.
So yeah, that's an ecological perspective to look at the garden.
Yeah.
What about the spiritual Franciscan perspective to create gardens? Like, how does it relate to you mentioned the prayer, the canticle of creation, for instance. So is it also a place to contemplate, or?
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So that is also here in the garden. Also, they made a tour, and there are different points in the garden, and they asked you to meditate about that. It's a special place. So it is a prayerful and that meditative way to be there, and and it is, of course, it's interesting. So in Megen, the garden is called, that is the Hof van Lof. So this is the how you get it? The Garden of Grace. The Garden of Grace. Yeah. So in the name also it is given that it is.
Yeah, well, I've been there, and I saw also these art objects also related to the canticle of creation. So it's also the expression of nature that expresses something of God, I think. You were explaining about Brother Stone. He's also expressing something of God's love to us. Yeah. So it's time for a break. We will have a break for 15 minutes, and also think about if you have some questions or want to ask me, or want me to ask a question, that's also fine. You can send to me. You get some coffee and
Sanitary break.
sanitary. I don't know where the
Toilet break.
Great. Thank you, and see you in 15 minutes.
We are all here, I think. We are going to play a short version of a rag, and that rag is called Brindavani Sarang. Raga is a set of tones who will bring you in a certain mood. And that mood in this case of Brindavani Sarang is playfulness, is summer, and we're a bit late, but it's the midday. So maybe it's midday now in the United States or something. I don't know where. So
It's always
we
midday.
imagine it's always midday somewhere, so we can do. The playfulness, it's the mood of playfulness, and a ragamala is a painting that is representing the mood of the raga. So you can watch the image to get in the mood and at the same time listen to the music. Thank you.
I traveled to all different worlds for a while listening. Yeah. So let's see. In preparation to this evening, I will introduce the topic. We discussed, well, I think Swami brought up the topic of loneliness. That is something that lots of people experience these days. Also, young people, they feel lonely. Although they are surrounded by a lot of stuff, and maybe even though they are surrounded sometimes by a lot of people, you still can feel very lonely. Both of you live as monastics. This is very interesting, I think, to reflect from that particular perspective on community and loneliness. So my question is, Theo, you became a part of the community when you were already 26 or 27. You can skip the personal question. Do you feel lonely sometimes, although you are living in a community? Are there any solutions to loneliness that you think that's something particular from the Franciscan movement? So you can choose or maybe answer both questions if you feel comfortable.
Yeah, it's true that living together doesn't mean that there is relations, and so I have experience in living in different fraternities, and then you, I think that what I experienced, then it is important that in that network of relations, then there will be the stronger and, or at least some stronger relations. And yeah, that has to do, you have to feel free and yeah, with confidence. What I have learned, and that's also by the Franciscan the spirituality, that there is one of the admonitions of Saint Francis, and he said, "Happy the man who bears his neighbor in his fragility, just as he wishes to be buried by him when he finds himself in a similar situation. So that is, and that fragility to show that and to tell that it is not the easiest way. And then that is, especially now in our society, it has to be beautiful and good, all things, but and also that's experience in fraternity that when we have a meeting, here also we have it every week, and then we start with an open round, so that first you can tell something about what happens, and then also to share some of the fragilities. That's not the easiest thing to do, but it if that happen, that is you can make a climate that it is possible to share this, and then it can also take you out of, or maybe some loneliness, because you are not the only who is struggling or have some things to do. So, but that needs an atmosphere of openness and acceptance, that feel that you are accepted with your strengths, but of course also with your fragility. And for me now it is very important when some I have to learn that also to be open about your fragility. That for me it is a sign of an honest relation. You don't have to be bigger than you are, and so it is also a solution. And that's also one. The last thing I say here, I'm a confessor here. That's my first time for many. I've never done it before like here. And then I realized that many people, they can't. It's a special place also to share your fragility, and that's a richness in our time. So I like this place also because of this new experience for me. Okay, something.
Yeah. So, well, our society might need more places, open spaces where people feel well, they can show how they actually feel. Yeah. So, confession might be a solution for people. Yeah. It's sharing the things that are heavy on your heart, of course. Swami, you explained that you are traveling a lot. I can imagine that you can feel at home everywhere in the world. But from my own experience, it also can bring some loneliness. So I was wondering, maybe you can share how you personally deal with it, and is there a solution? I don't think there's one solution from tradition. Is there something you can share with us of how maybe your tradition offers some perspectives on this societal problem?
Thank you. So we were talking before about the first answer to your first question about one main point of our tradition and importance of relationship and how everything is interrelated, interconnected. So in that sense, we will say nothing exists in isolation. Everything is interconnected. Everything, as Father Richard Rohr will say, everything belongs. But many times we may not be aware of how we are already connected as one family, and we may feel lonely psychologically. But ontologically, so we say nobody's lonely, in the sense that nobody exists in their own island, or they say no man is an island. In who we are at the core of our being, nobody exists separate from everyone else. But psychologically, we may feel that way. We may feel fragmented or fractured, not belonging. That's an important word, belonging. We may feel a lack of belonging. And we may try to belong, but I like to make a difference in words. I don't know, in Dutch, you have this nuance, I'm sure. Fitting in versus belonging, right? So many times people try to fit in, and for that they stop being who they are. They start to put different masks and create a character, even in religious circles sometimes. And they are trying to fit in, but actually what we really need is to belong. And for belonging, you need to be who you are. And being who you are means also being open to share my fragility, sometimes my fears, sometimes my doubts, my beautiful things, but also my wounds. And we all need that. We all need to experience belonging. And for that, as Brother Theo was saying, it's so important to have spaces where we feel safe enough to be seen in our nakedness, internal nakedness, in our fragility, in our everything, without being judged, without the fear of rejection. Because I think at the root, most of us are terrified about being judged, rejected, and left alone. Like, oh, if they know actually who am I, nobody will be talking to me anymore. So then we try to hide, not to show. Put one mask and another mask. So I think it's very important that spiritual groups or traditions, or any group or tradition, can create these safe spaces. In Sanskrit, we would call them sangha or satsang, which is like encounter with the truth, to being honest with one another. Like one of our texts, the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna will say, you better perform your duties imperfectly than someone else's duties perfectly. Like implying you better be yourself as a mess than be a perfect version of someone you can never be. So you be honest. That's it. The real perfection is not being perfect, but being perfect, as we were talking yesterday. The real perfection is be perfectly honest about your imperfection. That's a real perfection. But we sometimes need spaces that where we can feel that safety. Okay, it's safe here to open. And I'm not being judged, but I'm being seen, and I'm being loved, and I'm being received unconditionally. So that becomes empowering rather than the opposite. And as Brother Leo was saying also, it's important the point that when I have those safe space and I can share my fragilities, probably the rest of the group will start to raise their hand. It's like, oh, I also have those ones. Oh, I also have those. And eventually we realize, oh, we are all in the same journey together, right? In different stages or parts of the landscape. But what I'm feeling is not only my problem. So for me, that's mostly the bigger problem is not so much I have a fragility. The real problem is when I isolate myself in that fragility and I feel I'm the only one feeling this. And you trap yourself in a bubble, and that becomes a real problem. But when we can openly share that and see my own situation mirrored, reflected in others, somehow we start to create community, even in sharing our most painful things, but that can create community and communion. So yes, I think confession is a beautiful way of doing that. In our tradition, we'll have a similar expression. We'll call that like reveal our mind confidentially, which again is creating this space, sacred space of transparency, vulnerability, an important word. And we can grow together and normalize transparency, like to make it more normal to be transparent, to be open. We can maybe never do it with everyone in the same way, because some people also get scared if you become too honest and too open. They don't know what to do, because also that may invite them to be open, and that may be scary for some, because they may have some past trauma of what happened when they were fragile and abused. So many things can happen. So we cannot force that on others. Like, come on, be transparent, be honest, open yourself full. That can be like traumatizing, right? Yeah. So we have to create safe space, and and allow people to feel safe whenever they feel safe. That's also something I learned once. There was a circle, like sharing, and someone says, if someone tells you, if you're coming to the circle and someone tells you this is a safe space, probably you may want to run away because I have to decide if it's safe. You know, you cannot tell me it's safe. You know? You're gonna convince me it's safe. I have to feel it for myself. So we can do our best to create the safety, but everyone will feel safe or not at their own time. But it's very important, as you say, to create those spaces of safety and community. And I think that's very healing for this loneliness. Of course, you were asking me, I forgot to say, you were asking about my travels. If I feel lonely at times, and people ask me sometimes, Swami, where do you live? That's one of the most typical questions and one of the most difficult to reply for me because I travel a lot. So I have two options to say I live nowhere, so nowhere is my home, or everywhere is my home. So I choose the second option. But that does mean that sometimes you may not feel lonely. But for me, that's also a sign that, okay, I need to go back to my belonging, to my root, to be open, to be intimate, to cultivate intimacy. Now, as a monk, we may not have intimacy in the way of a sexual relationship or romantic relationship, but still we need to cultivate proximity and nearness and intimacy with peers, with equals, with brothers, sisters, and family, right? So we still have to do the same homework from another place probably, but still need some, not some, but a lot of that connection. So that's what allows me to remain of a sane mind while traveling around. And one last thing that I will say, I don't know if in Dutch you have these two words. We don't have them in Spanish actually, but in English you have the difference between loneliness and solitude. And solitude is a very important quality to cultivate in spiritual life, like also develop the capacity to be by yourself, but you're never entirely by yourself. Again, you are with God, even if you go by yourself to your hermitage, or it's a way of becoming more aware of the inner connection with the divine, which is not the same as loneliness at all. Actually, in solitude, that's a great antidote for loneliness. Because sometimes also the antidote for loneliness doesn't mean just go to a crowd of people. Many times in a crowd, it still is very impersonal. There's no openness, no intimacy. And sometimes in the intimacy of solitude, you can find this cure for loneliness. So I also want to add that because it's an important part of my daily life. I spend lots of time alone. But in that solitude, I realize that I'm never alone. And you can connect with not only with God, but with the universe in those moments of deep solitude as well.
Yes, this was very insightful. Thanks. Are there any questions? Yes, I see. Is it also allowed to give a contribution instead of a question? Or you would like to take the questions first? Okay. So I sit a lot with lonely people. I'm a spiritual care professional, geestelijk verzorger. My background, my own spiritual tradition is like the Swamis, the Gaudiya Vaishnavism. But especially young people are struggling with this nowadays a lot. I mean, elderly people also, but it's an epidemic among, young people, secondary school, student age, especially the ones who lived through COVID behind their screens. They really felt what disconnection can do, and it's really an existential crisis. And in this respect, I don't know if you all know the theology of Anton Boysen. He's a US theologian. He was a monastic who also suffered from a lot of mental challenges, loneliness, depression, I believe also schizophrenia, but mental issues. And he wrote a lot about this, and he saw this actually as an instigator for spirituality. So as a starting point, as an existential crisis to start developing your relationship with God more, go deeper into that. And I think, from my own perspective and my own experience, having been in this tradition for a long time also, you go through cycles of this also a little bit. But I think it's also a big opportunity for the people like you two and those who feel inclined within the religious communities to this service to help people develop their connection with the divine from this place of loneliness. And in this respect, I think from our tradition, there's a beautiful saying which is, I take to heart a lot. It is like a devotee of God, he doesn't really consider his devotee, but a devotee of his devotee, he considers to be his real devotee. So helping people with that, I think, in terms of loneliness or other mental issues, I think it can also be, in that sense, a positive point in your life where you're invited to go deeper. And it's an arrangement by the divine to start that process. Thank you. There was a question. Yeah.
Good evening. I try to phrase my question in English. And if you don't understand, please. I was attracted by this small folder. And then it's written, traditional spirituality, how can it contribute to the present society? I was doubting what you are telling me. If I may call both religions, both are already very old. And that means in those older days, you developed, if I may call it, your tradition. Now the society has completely changed. Everything has changed. How can traditional spirituality contribute to the present society, which is completely different? If I hope I make myself clear.
Yeah. This was very clear. Thanks. Yes, Theo. Would you like to respond to the question?
Yeah, okay, thank you. The question, the tradition and now in our reality here. So for me, it is interesting. We celebrate this year 800 years of the Saint Francis died. We say Franciscus, he went to the other life. And some say a very old man, but what we say now is in Dutch it was springlevend. He is alive in some way because of course the way we have also fraternal life. Now it is completely outside seem completely different from Saint Francis, but what are the values inside, they are lived now. And so that has, I think now, talking about loneliness and also more, we say our first mission is to live as friars together. That's I finally and that is our the first mission, and also because the society is so split off, and fraternal life. So that is not hierarchical, but fraternal life, I think, and that is a value for nowadays. And what we talked just also about the scholars. When I lived in Megen, we had scholars 2 days lived with us, and they shared the life there. And in that climate, they became open, and also they had and they shared also their weakness. And one moment, there was once a group, and at the beginning he said, my grandfather is very bad, maybe he will die. The last morning, he knocked on the door where we were, and they said, come out, your grandfather died. Now we will call your mother. No, he said, I want to stay here because the climate was so good. So and that means there was a real openness. And when we had the midday prayer, others said we have to pray for his grandfather. If they prayed other times, I don't know, but I think so. There was a for me it was an experience that by sharing that life, it is a living tradition, and because you have a meaning for ourselves, but also for people around. That's only one aspect, but I think we have to relate, to have our relation to the environment. And also one thing, it is not only our mission to receive people, but now we are becoming smaller, so we are obliged, we can't do everything our own, to look for bunch people around. So we don't have to do it all ourselves, but to also with people from outside. So for 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting here on the marketplace. Many people, because asylum seekers, they are in a better. And then many groups came together, and also as friars we were there, and they say, very good that we, within our society, that we say we will welcome people, and you also participate in this group. So it is, you are challenged sometimes also by the reality now, and then to be open for that and to participate, then you are alive, I think.
Thank you. Well, I always try to avoid the word tradition because, well, there was a famous book, The Invention of Tradition, and then all scholars were like, yeah, but the tradition is always adaptive to the context where it evolves. So, yeah, but sometimes we use the word, but what we do not mean or imply that something's static. Well, but I like the word that you were using, the living tradition. So it's tradition is not something old-fashioned from the past, and that's very powerful if you make those connections. If you don't make the connection, well, after 1 year the tradition is gone. I think no, well, it will survive for some generations, but yeah. Yeah, Swami, would you like to respond also to the tradition question? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, actually I agree, of course, with you shared. And in fact, in one of my books, I speak about basically start the books on what we call evolution in divine love. So my main point is reality is evolving, is moving, is changing. So a tradition that is representing God. In my book, I try to make the case that we describe God as constantly expanding in love. So it's a reality that is always evolving in that sense. So if we represent something always evolving, we should also be evolving. We shouldn't be like a relic from the past or a museum piece, so to say. But at the same time, the interesting thing for me here is that we're talking about loneliness or some of these we will say modern crisis, but actually these problems have been there all the time. So it's not something just for us now. It's taken a certain shape, as you were saying the world is changing a lot. But among all the things that change, there are things that they're always the same. Basically, the problem is always the same in the sense of we may speak about it differently, and we need to do so. And I think the duty of every tradition is to remain up to date to which language to use, how to articulate things, even in terms of psychology and trauma and science and all these different areas of knowledge. But deep at the bottom, still we are talking about a self that has lost sight of their belonging, of their connection with the center that is somehow divided, fragmented, fractured, and we need to bring union and connection and belonging back. So in one way or another. So in that sense, I do not think about texts from my tradition we have thousands of years ago, but basically already talking about these things, right? Like avidya or lack of knowledge of our actual identity brings duality, dualism, seeing reality in a separateness. That's kind of the main symptom of ignorance. I see things separate, and in separateness, I don't see unions, so I develop fear. And in that fear, I develop all these different defense mechanisms, and we start to become enemies of one another, and bands and groups, and putting everything into different boxes. And again, more and more isolation, more and more separateness. And on top of that, of course, nowadays we have a bombardment of content and information, and paradoxically, hyperconnectivity, global hyperconnectivity, and internet and social media, but at the same time, this deep sense of separateness at the same time. So it's important to address that particular problem in that shape. But at the end of the day, it's always for me a problem of separateness and how to bring connection, how to bring a sense of belonging in one way or another. And at the end of the day, this what we're talking about, developing, keeping the capacity of sitting, relating to one another, seeing one another for who we are. It's crucial because from what I've seen and heard also with this wave of, and I have nothing against social media. I have my social media account and I try to share my message through social media. So I'm not like a denialist of that, but in many cases, most people become obsessed with what we're talking before, like fitting in. So showing an image of themselves to be accepted, to be liked, to be followed, to belong. And then back of all that, they are thirsty for belonging. But actually they think they will get the belonging by creating a persona that is not them and impressing the world with showing a perfect image. So I think we need these spaces where you are seen for who you actually are, and you are being assured, like, you don't need to be superhero, superman, superwoman, super anything. It's you are fine as you are, and you are being seen for who you are, and you are still being accepted. That can be so release. You can release so much pressure, so much exhaustion, and find immediate connection. So yeah, I think it's big duty of everyone, but spiritual groups also to foster this sense of connection and unity. Because many times in the past also many religious people have created the opposite. Not all, but many times, unfortunately, in the name of religion, there has been lots of separation. So I will say it's on our backs the duty to bring union and connection. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, we say in Dutch that er is niks nieuws onder de zon. There's nothing new under the sun. It's, well, yeah, so all those problems have been there before, but they looked differently in the past. So just one sentence to which you might respond before we are finishing this evening. So, who's practicing yoga? Well, this is good, yeah. And I would like both of you to respond to the question. No, it's not a question, it's a discussion sentence. Yoga should be offered in all kinds of schools to reduce stress among children. And I'm asking this question because I know lots of children find it difficult to just sit and relax. That's one interpretation of yoga. Also, I know that some Christians are against yoga because it comes from the Hindu tradition. And I know on the other hand that some Hindus say, well, we want to reclaim our own tradition. And what are those Western people doing with yoga? So,
Cultural
yes, cultural appropriation indeed. So, yeah, can you just give your opinion on this? In 1 minute.
I was just going to say you have 3 more hours.
Yeah. Should we do it here in the, for instance, a Roman Catholic school? offer yoga in the Netherlands?
I mean, I'm not someone who is like, you should be doing that, because who am I to impose anything? But I will say, of course, we are all talking about yoga, but first we may need to define what's yoga, because everyone will take for granted their own idea. And there are different types of yoga form. And at the end of the day, yoga means union. It's very close to the word religion, basically. Religare, relink, reconnect, and yoga comes from yug, which means to bond together. So it's an interesting. Generally, people do not think about yoga and religion like the same thing, but they actually mean the same thing. And we generally have wrong ideas about both of those words. So, but if we are talking about yoga regarding just the asana or the physical exercise, I mean, they have a purpose. I won't say they should be putting in every school, but if they do that, it's good to also present that properly. And also, if they get that yoga is not just postures, and even if it's only postures, understanding the posture have the purpose of moving the body and relaxing the muscles in a way that creates mind condition in the mind. So gradually we can sit and be more with ourselves in the present moment in a more contemplative state, if we want to use that word, and go deeper into ourselves. But sometimes we need the body to be a little bit aligned, so the mind can be also accompanying that. That's what I was. And I didn't take a minute to believe in
Yeah. So thank you. Do you want to respond to this topic?
Yeah.
So what is in the name? In the name, you can say yoga. Other will talk about meditation in different ways. I think that that's very important. And also when school is game, also for some days, I also did some exercises with them, and because in our society now, and also for younger people, they are busy all the time, and there is no rest, many impulses. So I think to help them also to have some more rest, and I think that will be good. But to force it, that's another thing. Yeah.
Thanks.
Brother Theo was more enthusiastic than me about being in yoga.
Yeah. Well, I should use the word meditation when I would like to introduce it in a Christian school in Zaltbommel. I guess it's better to thank you for this, because with yoga I'm not going to win this.
We have a problem there.
Yeah, the word is kind of yeah, but it's Zaltbommel, so yeah. Yeah, it's time. Theo, according to my schedule, you have some final things to say.
Not according to his schedule.
Yeah, but if not, it's also fine.
Oh.
Oh, sorry. Again, yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
We should ask one question. There were pictures taken,
Yeah.
and we should ask if they are published here or there. Do some people do not want to be there? Yeah.
Yeah,
When we were preparing this evening, there was also this question. Some of us have taken some pictures here or there, and maybe someone would like to publish it in a certain quarterly or Facebook or whatever. If any one of you will say, please don't put me on a picture, let me know. This was one question, yeah, just respect. That's for you, of course.
I can explain it.
You can explain.
I'm applying for a visa for India.
Yeah,
I forgot to put in there that in 2017, I have been in Pakistan. And now they say, I forgot it. They say you are, for the time being, not allowed to get a visa because they saw it on internet.
so
So that's why I'm a little bit
anxious, yeah. Okay. We can sing a song maybe, or do you want to do something else, or we can sing a song about
So we
peace?
can publish pictures from this side of the room.
Or the back, your backside?
good. If
The
you don't
in-
see
the-
my face.
Oh, no, Indian people love your backside.
No, because there are so many people that I only have one bag.
We can sing a song, yes? There's a song, it's very easy, it's one word, it's peace. It's salam, Muslim. It's shalom. It's Israeli song. So I can sing it just a cappella, and then you can repeat. Yes. Peace, salam, shalom. I got it on iPad. Maybe that helps you.
Yeah.
I can see.
We are very traditional, we like paper.
Share. For you, thank you. It's very easy. Peace, salam, shalom. 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 And now I would like to ask you, can we sing it as a prayer? So please sit upright on your chair. Have a body position of meditation, prayer, because then we can sing peace into our world. Even to Krishna and Saint Francis. They will like it a lot. Yeah. So we sing it as a prayer, and we sing it for the peace throughout the world. Yeah. Peace, salam, shalom. 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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You can add a shanty in
Yeah.
it as well. Shanty Om.
Shanti Om.
Well, thank you for being here this evening. Special thanks to Swami, special thanks to Theo, and also to Vincent, who kind of organized this whole event. We are very grateful that you were here and you felt that it was a safe space to ask questions. And if you have any further questions, don't hesitate to ask us after. Well, I now formally close this event. There is something nice. At least there are drinks.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
some sweets too.
Sweets and sweets. Okay. So you can stay here for, well, a while.
As long as the sweets are there.
Yeah. And enjoy the sweets and the conversations. And have a nice, good journey home. And good night. And hope to see you in the future.
Thank you.